Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. We're going to give just a minute for other folks to join, and we'll get started. Okay, hi, everyone. Welcome to the CTGlobal webinar on Insight Analytics, and thank you for joining. My name is Kim Larson, and I'm the Director of Business Development for North America. Our session today will be led by CTGlobal founder and MVP, Kent Augerland, and he is going to go over Insight Analytics and give you a demo. Should anyone have any questions during our session, please put them in the chat window, and we will address them at the Q&A session at the end of the presentation. So before Kent gets started, I wanted to just take a couple of minutes to tell you about CTGlobal, who we are and what we do, in the event that some of you are not familiar with us. We're a global consultancy founded in 1999 and based out of Copenhagen, Denmark. We have offices in 5 countries, and we service our customers globally. We're lucky enough to have 7 MVPs, Microsoft MVPs on staff. We hold multiple Microsoft competencies in data center, cloud platform, enterprise mobility plus security, Windows and devices, and we're also an Intune Elite partner. CTGlobal also partners with other firms that allow us to provide additional offerings for our clients. Some of our partners include Lenovo, Flexera Software, 2.1e, and a whole host of other partners that you can find on our website. So if anybody has any questions, again, reminder, please put them in the chat window. And now I'm going to turn it over to Kent Augerland. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for the introduction, Kim. Once again, welcome. So we're going to do this in just 30 minutes. What the goal for this webinar here is to share a little of our insight and some of all the knowledge that we have been gathering over the years. And let me start by giving you a quick intro into why we have a service called CTGlobal Insight Analytics. CTGlobal Insight Analytics is really, it's really due to all of our customers. We have been doing many enterprise client projects over the last 19 years, and a lot of times we have been giving the exact same questions. What if? How can we? And is this possible? So what we started doing was, we started putting together all of these, custom scripts and solutions and so on and so forth. And then, after a while, we kind of realized that, we need so much more than that. It's kind of neat that our customers are calling us all the time and asking the what if questions, but what if you didn't have to call us? What if you could actually see it for yourself? So that's really what spun up the idea of CTGlobal Insight Analytics. What I will do here is I'll show a couple of slides, and then I will jump between the service, give you some insights to what it is that we are offering you, and then obviously also answer the questions that you might have. With that, let's go ahead and get started. So the first one here is really, what if you knew you were losing an intellectual property? That's kind of a pretty neat opening statement here, but we have seen that. We have seen that several times. We have seen it especially lately around Windows 10 projects. We see a lot of customers as they are moving towards Windows 10 and a modern workplace, that they're also changing their normal H drive or X drive or what have you into OneDrive for Business. But what if your OneDrive for Business is not synchronized? What if you as the end user believe that you're storing data on OneDrive for Business, but you're actually doing it on your personal OneDrive? Then what happens when you haven't synchronized, or OneDrive hasn't synchronized, and you start restoring your device or reinstalling your device? We have seen that happen, and we have seen some of our customers actually lose valuable data there. So the first one here is, what if you knew that? ahead of time. There are also other things that 2017 was kind of ugly for most of us in IT. We had WannaCry, we have Petya, and for a lot of us that was really eye-opening occasions, and we know it can happen in just a few minutes. Normally, if we take WannaCry, we already knew ahead of time. We knew that SMB1 was an insecure protocol, but for most in the organization, it wasn't a well-known issue. Maybe it was well-known for you as an IT pro, but for your manager or for the security people making all the decisions, maybe they didn't know that we had 53,000 devices somewhere with SMB1 where that was enabled. So having an easy insights to information like this can save you, not only a lot of time, but also your organization a lot of data. And if let me just drill in here. So I'll just switch over here, and I'll count to 5, as I know some of you might be sitting behind and not so fast internet connection here, but here you have one of the presentation layers that we have in Insight Analytics. So what I'm seeing right here is information that I've gathered from my own environment, and some of the things that I want to look at is like, so how am I protected? When we talk about SMB1, how many of my clients are compliant and non-compliant? How about the OneDrive issue that I talked about? What if are we synchronizing or aren't we synchronizing our devices? Sometimes information like this is actually raising more questions than they answer. And what we quickly realized after we developed the presentation layer here was that, hey, you need to be able to tell the numbers behind the number here. So when I'm looking at, I have 97% healthy clients, what are my unhealthy clients? So being able to drill in by clicking on the widget and then see some more detailed information about this, like when we talk client health, how many unhealthy clients do you have? Or when we talk client activity, how many active clients do we have, who are not active, and so on and so forth. Getting that insight in just a few clicks is fairly important. And we have the same, for instance, for OneDrive. So some of the things that we quickly realized as we were doing the first OneDrive projects here and Win 10 projects was that maybe you're not synchronizing. So in this demo environment that I have here, I have a couple of devices for a couple of users, that haven't synchronized. So the last synchronization status I have from them is a failure. So right now, data resides locally on these devices. And if I reinstall one of these devices, data is lost. Obviously, and hopefully I have most successful synchronization, but that might not be all good. As I look right now, you can see here that I have a couple of devices in my environment, and then they're all synchronizing against an organization called CTGlobal. What if they're synchronizing against another organization? That could happen. All depending on your environment. Maybe someone went in there and configured his or her own OneDrive for business. So all of a sudden, we might think that this device here is good, but it's actually not synchronizing to our organization. And I do know that we can use EMS to make sure that your OneDrive data is not leaving the corporate OneDrive and so on and so forth. But still, and not everybody has configured those security settings. So the whole what if is super important, and there are so many other examples here, but this was just some of them. And as I said, especially the OneDrive, getting insights to synchronization. How many files do you have, residing in OneDrive? How many files do we have locally? Why are they not the same number, right? So super interesting data. Another one that that we are seeing, and is like, so what if you knew you were burning money by the hour? And that's we don't want to hear that. and sometimes, even if we know, we don't want to see it. But the truth is, we have to get the insights about this. We have to know, the hidden cost. And hidden cost can be, in so many ways. It can be in shadow IT, but it can also be in your existing environment here. So do you gather information about your blue screens? Do you know, if you have more blue screens on one hardware model compared to another hardware model? Do you know if you have more application crashes in Asia Pacific compared to North America? And also, do you know how long it takes in average for a machine to boot up, for a machine to log in, and so on and so forth? This is for many super valuable data, and often when we look at stuff like computer login time, we see a lot of variation between the various regions, and we have also found that networking issues like DNS misconfigurations, domain controllers, DFS, and what have you, is causing some areas to be more than almost double the amount of minutes in login time. And users, they don't tell that. They might complain that computers are slow, but then again, they have been complaining for 20 years about their computer is slow, so we might not take them that serious. But by providing insights here, we can easily see that. So again, let me switch back here to, there you go. If I jump in here, let me just switch a view. So Insight Analytics here, as you can see, there is a visualization layer, as I mentioned. This visualization layer, we can add in as many different views as we want. And a view is just one logical way of organizing your data. What I have in here is I have a view where we have service disk and on-site with a specific view on performance. So how am I performing when I look at our environment in North America versus how we are performing when we're looking at our devices in Europe? And I'm kind of looking at the same thing. Let me just quickly explain what I'm seeing here. So I'm very curious about the desktop boot time. When I look at the desktop boot time, I have startup time. Startup time is from I click power on until the login is shown. The login time is from when I enter my password until my desktop is ready. And my desktop is ready when I have enough percent idle time. And the login time is the one that is very interesting. It's very interesting because it will tell me if we have network misconfigurations. So if I'm logging in and it takes 5 minutes, but that might be because I'm being serviced by a domain controller in Tokyo. So the numbers here are super interesting. Now looking at these numbers, 63 doesn't really tell me anything, but when I start comparing that to other regions, it's super interesting. And then you can start figuring out the trends. Another thing, and we really had kind of shadow IT in our mind when we looked at this one. This is the application performance impact on when a device is starting. So how many applications do we have that do have a high impact on the startup time? And what we're looking at here is disk I/O and then CPU time. And we're using calculations that Microsoft have already defined. So if you look at the performance guidance from Microsoft, you will actually find the same kind of calculations. We just calculate them on the device, gather the data, and then we present them up here. And again, this is super interesting, especially for those organizations where you haven't removed local admin rights yet. Hopefully all of you here have removed local admin rights, but I know not all of you have done that. Then when we're talking about losing money and productivity, it's really stuff like blue screen of death and application crashes. So what we're doing here is I'm looking at how many blue screens I've had over a specific period of time, and then I calculate that, or we calculate that, and say, okay, so each blue screen, we estimate that to cost the company about 15 minutes. And I do know that sometimes it can be 2 hours work that you lose there. Other times it might only be 10 minutes. So in average, it's like 15 minutes, which is very conservative. Again, numbers like this, super interesting, but as you know, if you're a manager, you want to know, so what can I do about it? And in a production environment, we're not looking at 8 hours, we're looking at typically thousands and thousands of hours. So when I drill in here, I can go in and specify my currency, and then I can specify the hourly cost that we do have. So let's say that internally here, we are looking at all these blue screens, and our production cost is about $225 per hour. So what this insight will give me is, the number of blue screens that I've had over a period. So down here, I have the number of months, and then it's also going to give me a top list. So if you go out and you fix these blue screens here, if you fix these errors, this is the amount of dollars that you're going to save, and that's kind of super interesting, because as I said in the beginning, knowing that you're losing money, burning money, nice, but if you can also see, how you can actually stop losing money, even better. And we have exactly the same for application crashes. Now, an application crash is not 15 minutes, and here we are just talking seconds instead. So, how do I create these? If I want to create, let's say I want to create application crash work hours lost here for Europe, it's fairly simple. I just go into edit mode. In edit mode, I will go ahead and I will create me a new widget. So when I do create a widget, which is the visualization topic, I just place it in a group. You can have as many groups as you want. And then I select the category. Now, a category is also known as a connector, and it can be a connector to, your data source. In here, I have 3 different data sources, so 3 different config manager environments, and it could be, numerous different environments. So I'm selecting the category, and after that, I have a variety here of different templates. So you'll see all the usual configuration manager topics in here. So you can look at applications, you can look at active clients, you can look at task sequence deployments. Everything and anything within config manager can be visualized. Besides that, we have also created a lot of custom templates in here. So application crashes, work hours lost in here, for instance. And I can scroll down and you'll just have a long list of various items that you can select there. You can see you have the operating system, boot time, and so on and so forth. So a lot of goodies in here. If I select app crash here, then since I selected the configuration manager category, I'll have to go in and select the collection. So right now it's looking at my collections. Let me just do, this is a small demo environment, all desktop and server clients. How many days do I want to look back at? So, let me look at 30 days. I want to have 30 days. And how often do I want to synchronize the data here? So the sync interval here is, how often do I want to run this query against my SQL environment? We do know that some of you have 100,000 plus endpoints, and you definitely don't want to run 500 queries once a minute. You don't want to cause yourself that pain. We understand that. And some numbers, it doesn't even make sense to update them maybe more than once per day. While other numbers, if you're doing a Win 10 deployment, for instance, and you're looking to deploy 5,000 devices this week, maybe you want to update those numbers here on the dashboard once per hour. So it's very different. So just for the fun of it, let me go ahead and do 1 minute. So as I hit create here, it's just going to create the widget. And if I wanted to, I could go in and then I could customize this widget here. Customizing the widget could be, changing the text, removing information about the collection that I'm looking at, and also changing the font size, the color, and so on and so forth. We'll drill much more into that in a later webinar here. But after a few seconds, once we have the data, then it will look just like what I have here to the left. A couple of other stats that I want to briefly tell you about while I still have your attention is, besides creating predefined widgets up here, we can also create our own custom queries. So whatever you can query in SQL. And I know a lot of you have, a lot of really, really good imagination, and you have some really powerful SQL skills. If you can create a query in SQL that will return 2 columns, like I have here, my top 10 Lenovo blue screens, my top 10 Microsoft blue screens, my top 10 all models, you can definitely go ahead and create this. There is absolutely nothing stopping you. And we do have a lot of custom queries in here. So with that, let me just switch back here. So, so what if you knew your blind spots? Some of the blind spots that we do see is, I wanna deal with my patch management, and I'm not 100% compliant. That's like a classic. What you might not realize is that the reasons why you're not 100% compliant. And if I drill back into the dashboard again here, then let me go down to patch management. So looking at patch management, it's fairly clear that my manager wants me to be 100% compliant, and I am 100% compliant on my third-party updates. So here we have integrated our dashboard with information from Flexera. But looking at April, May, June, July, and so on and so forth, I'm really not doing that great, and all of my numbers are red. They will turn white once I reach 95% because 95% is my KPI. So the interesting question is what are all my blind spots? What is it that I'm not seeing since I'm not getting here? And it can be clients dealing with all sorts of WSUS issues. So we have a lot of checks in here to see if your client is actually scanning successfully. How many of our clients have been scanning successfully for a week? How many of our clients have updated or installed updates within the last 30 days, and so on and so forth. So we have a lot of interesting information in here. And also just basically how many have had scan errors within the last number of days. And again, for each of these widgets here, you will have a report, so I can go in and see in my environment how many have successfully scanned against my WSUS servers, and where have I had some errors, what devices are actually erroring out, and so on and so forth. So extremely quickly, I will get the insight that I need. Now, I did talk about blind spots, and one of the things that we realized was that we ran into customers that were dealing with a lot of patch issues, and we're looking. We have a lot of experience in that field, so looking at the Windows Update Agent and so on and so forth. And it really turned out that it wasn't really the Windows Update Agent causing the issue. It was actually my GPOs. So we had that customer had a lot of corrupt registry poll files. And when you have a corrupt registry poll file, you're not downloading any new group policies, you're not applying any GP settings. And that combination actually freaked out the Windows Update Agent. So that was a pretty good example of a blind spot. So sometimes, even though WSUS is taking a lot of heat these days, sometimes it's not the WSUS server. I would say, though, most of the time it is. But that's what it is. So let's just go back here to patch management for a second, because there are a couple of other things that I just want to highlight. So besides looking at our standard Microsoft updates and our third-party updates, sometimes we have applications, specific applications in focus, and And for our environment, we are running Office 365. So what I've created here is a query that will tell me in percent. So how many of my devices are actually running the latest Office 365 version? And I was kind of surprised when I saw this the first time. Now the number have moved up here, but I was kind of anticipating that this number would be very close to 90%, because we are automatically updating Office 365 and all of that good stuff. But that's just not reality, at least not in this environment and not in some of the environments that we have seen. So knowing, what is your latest production build, and then also just quickly see that, hey, we still have 5% running on this 2018 version, and 5% might not be that many devices if you have only 100, but if you have 150,000 devices, we're talking a lot of devices, right? And again, as I said, you can create, if you wanna, you can go ahead and create any custom query that you wanna create. So if you have other applications in focus right now where you wanna look at, how many different versions do you have, create like a top 10 list. We have something we call the top inventory list. In the top inventory list, you can go in, select yourself a collection, and then we have some custom queries in here. So, I want to see the number of operating systems I have in here, the number of Windows 10 versions that I have in here, like that. But I can also go in and create a custom query. So if you have a custom query, just paste in the query here. So if I switch to my CM environment, in here I have a query that will show me my Lenovo machines and the blue screens, and I have one column with the model, one column with the count. If it runs successfully, all I got to do is simply just paste it in here, and it will create a list just like I have down here. So it's super easy to start visualizing. And with that, let me just go back and make sure that I do have a few minutes to talk about the rest of the slides here. So if you would like to know if your clients are patched, if your users and company data is at risk, and if we're losing productive time, then as I've just demonstrated here with a few examples, with Insight Analytics here, you would already know. That's not the same as it would automatically be fixed, but at least it would be brought to your attention. The solution itself is kind of a three-part tool. So we have a data generating tool where we will use your existing config manager infrastructure. We're using 120 plus configuration items to generate the data that we need. So we far from have all the data that we want in native SCCM. So we generate a lot of that data, and we'll obviously it's all part of this service here. Then it's also a data gathering tool. So we as I showed you, we have some connectors. We can go ahead and have custom connectors. So if you have SQL databases and so on and so forth, there is nothing that would hinder us from gathered data from those environments. And the same goes with Microsoft Graph. And then, as I've been showing you here, we also have a visualization platform. And that visualization platform resides in Azure. And we have about 50 custom reports to support that, and we constantly develop new reports. So I think we have something like 5 or 10 reports every second month because we get so much feedback from our customers, which is really awesome. So our promise when you start using this is really we know that you're going to increase your security simply by creating awareness. And we also know that providing cost savings and giving you a better user experience, that's kind of very close to our hearts here. And that has been the the main drivers. So increased security, cost savings, and better user experience. And obviously, better user experience also leads to improved performance, or improved performance will lead to better user experience. So by giving you all of the insights here, we will make you look like a hero. That's really what we are meant to do here. So how does it work? Very quickly. So as I mentioned, you have your environment. If you have a config manager environment, we will supply you with the reports, with the configuration items, with all the logic. And the only thing you really have to do is just install a service. That service will then communicate with Azure. We'll run the queries against your SQL server, encrypt all the data and all of that good stuff, and only send up the results that we need. So we are not going to send up any IP information. We're not going to send up any fully qualified domain name or usernames or anything like that. It will just be, the number 87 or the name of a task sequence. And that all resides in Microsoft Azure here. So the visualization part is in Azure. Everything else, the reports, all the logic and so on, is saved on premise. And how do you get started? So first of all, you can at any given time reach out to Kim or anyone else from our team, and you can also get started by signing up for a free trial. With the free trial, you'll not get access to all of the reports, but you will definitely get access to the entire Azure part, and we'll love to get you started, and we will have you up and running in no time. And no time is 10-15 minutes from beginning until you start seeing the first data in the dashboard. With that. Kim, I think I did spend my 30 minutes of fame here. So I don't know if you have any questions, or if there are any questions at this point. I do see some questions in here. Oh. Kim, are you still there? Because I cannot hear you. Can we get a recorded version of this? Absolutely. That was question number 1. That was very easy. So are the data that you're using only from SCCM or Azure also? So we do have that's a good question, John. So we do have a graph connector, and I think we have had that for maybe half a year by now. So getting and gathering data through Microsoft Graph is something we can also assist you with. And when you're talking Azure, I think you might be talking Intune, you might be talking Office 365, and so on. Can we check update compliance per specific update? Yeah, we can. That's Kevin asking. We can definitely do that. Let me just jump quickly back here. The reason why I say we can, it's very easy to do, is because we're just utilizing what we have within SCCM. So in SCCM, I think you're aware that you can create a CI and a baseline. So in here, I can go in and I can fetch and visualize any given baseline that I have. So if I do have a baseline with specific updates, then you can definitely visualize that. And that's actually what I did with one of the WannaCry widgets that I had. So yeah, you absolutely do that. See if there are more questions. Installing as we speak. That's not a question, that's a love from Sweden. So is there any company problem that they overcame that they did not know of using CI Insight Analytics? Yeah, I would say, I mean, we have been, when we start up on an engagement, it's typically because our customer, they have like a couple of things in mind. Like they definitely want to work on performance because they have just been installing a new version of Windows 10, and they're just seeing an awful lot of blue screens, and just seeing an awful lot of blue screens in here. If I go back to my global view here, you have a couple of issues where I count the number of blue screens that we have had, and yeah, that has been a main driver for some of our customers. For others, it's really the Windows 10 project. So knowing that, hey, we are deploying so many Windows 10 machines today, how many upgrades successfully. I don't know if you can see it here, but here I just have a quick example of that. And then we have a full dashboard view just on Windows 10. You know, how are we doing upgrades in Singapore? How are we doing upgrades in Alabama, and so on and so forth. So often it's one or two specific topics that we begin with, and really provide a lot of insights into that. So that was a good question as well. And as I mentioned, you know, we can visualize almost anything, and it's very, very common for our global customers that they have like a global view, and then they would have more or less the same view, but for various regions. And each of the views in here, you can scope that view. So it's kind of, you know, if you think role-based administration, so I can say it's only administrators in EMEA that can actually view that specific view, and it's integrated into Azure Active Directory. So if you already have Azure Active Directory, you can just use whatever groups and users you have in there. If you don't have that, then we have our own built-in security system here. Yeah. Did I answer all of the questions? I think I did. So so with that, we just ran a few minutes over time here, but thanks a lot for your time. And as Kim said, if you have any questions, you know, please reach out, and we will make sure that you get the recording and you get information about the recording here shortly. Okay, thanks a lot, and have a great rest of the day.